Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm really excited to be here today. What an amazing introduction that really touched me, and it has been a lifelong journey of supporting community, and I'm just very, very honored to have been asked to come and celebrate Women's History Month with you this year. It has a lot of special meaning to me, specifically this month, for a lot of different reasons, which we're going to talk about today. And so, I have been thinking about what should we talk about, and what is the best use of our time together this morning. I'm really passionate about women in leadership, and I wanted to tie that to something that was relevant and that would speak to students and faculty and just wherever you are in your own life's journey. And the one thing that my mother is always talking to me about is money. So I thought, let's talk about something that is very important to our governor. He ran on a campaign of work, wages, and wealth. This is, I think, particularly important in the African American community, and especially for Black women. There are two things that we need to talk about much more as women, and that we need to own in our leadership journey. That's our health and our wealth. And so I'm going to talk today about the wealth part, the journey, and the things that we all need to be supporting each other through. How do you get from point A to point B, so that you can really take advantage of the investment that you're making in yourself in your higher education journey. So the first question I want to ask before I get started is, how many folks in here are first generation? If you're a first generation college student or graduate, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Great. I am also a first generation college graduate in my family, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey, why this is important, some of the great things my mother and my grandmother, who were not college educated women, put on my heart and in my soul, and I've used their wisdom throughout my career. All right, so, as I said, I am a first generation college graduate in my family. And I want to just talk a little bit about what that means for me, because I do think it's important that I give so much recognition and credit to my mother and grandmothers, the women who made me who I am. I'm originally born and raised in Meridian, Mississippi, so I'm a Southern girl. And my mother does not have a high school diploma. My mother got pregnant with me when she was in high school. And my mother got pregnant at the time that if you were a young woman in high school and got pregnant, they put you out of school. They let my father continue to go to school. And actually, he made more babies while he was continuing in school. But that's a different story for a different day. But my mother was forced out of high school because she was pregnant. My grandmother only has a 6th grade education. I was born on Valentine's Day. And so my mother tells everyone I'm the love of her life. And what that meant, though, is that my mother was very hard on me. And I was chosen by the women of my family to break barriers. And so we were living in the projects, and I was going to private school. We were living in the projects, and I was in dance classes. We were living in the projects, and I was a Delta cotillion. So my mother and my grandmothers, but all of them kind of pooled their resources together. They chose me, the first granddaughter, to be the one that was going to make a difference for our family. And I've held that responsibility for my family my entire life. And I take that very seriously. And it is part of who I am, and all that I strive to be is in honor of those women who were not college educated, who were single Black women in Meridian, Mississippi, with a dream for a little girl named Tisha. And I am just forever indebted to every sacrifice that they ever made for me. And so I've now gotten to the point in my own professional journey that I have the obligation to try to do the same for other Black women, whether they are in my family or not. I'm a mom of 2 boys, so I love all the time that I get to spend with young women and developing them. So this is really interesting, and one of the things, kind of the key lessons of my life. My grandmother, when I was deciding to go to college, my grandmother, what she said to me is, I am so proud of you because you're going to get your freedom papers. And I am just now really understanding what she meant. What does it mean to be free? And I think my professional journey speaks to my grandmother's prayer of freedom for me. Free papers give me the opportunity to choose where to be, who to be with, when to do it, how to do it. That's what my college degree did for me. My mother had to go to a job that she hated. My grandmother had to clean the houses of white women all of her life. I do whatever I want to do, when I want to do it, because it's paid in full on the backs of my mother, the backs of my grandmother, and on the college degree that they helped me to achieve. And so a lot of people say, gosh, Miss Edwards, you've done so many things. And I said, I know, because I'm free. I can do whatever I want to do. And so I have had the pleasure and the privilege of having my freedom papers 3 times over. A bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a Juris Doctorate degree. And so with that, it has allowed me to do a lot of different things. I've held leadership in the private sector. I've held leadership in the public sector, human services, education, state government, local government. And as this slide says, I'm leaving my role as the governor's secretary of appointments, which has been an honor. And in a couple of weeks, I will be moving into a new role as the CEO and president of the Maryland Bankers Association. Just a funny story. I should have put this text up in the screen. I sent my mother loves Westmore. So I sent my mother this text to let her know that I was leaving the state, and I sent her the press release for the Maryland Bankers Association. She replied to my text, wow, shit. Because she was like, what's bigger than West? And I was like, I'm following the money. So she is just very excited about that. My mother's an old school cursor, so you have to forgive me for that. All right, so one of the things that I'm really proud of is our administration's commitment to women in leadership. As the Secretary of Appointments, my number one job was helping the governor to establish his cabinet. And we were very committed to ensuring that women were at the table. Women of all ethnic backgrounds, women with lots of expertise. We are the baddest girls in the game, okay, in the state of Maryland. All of these women were handpicked by me and the governor. I'm very proud of the fact that our cabinet is 53% women, 28% women of color, and all of these women are highly qualified. All of these women are very committed to community, and all of these women are making contributions to make our state better. Today, even though we have all of these great strides and great examples of women in leadership, we do face challenges. And we need to be able to talk about those challenges, and we need to have a roadmap of how to get through, over, and under those challenges. And from my perspective, there are kind of 4 big issues that we need to be super conscious of in our journey in leadership. And I think this applies to wherever you are, whether you are a student or whether you are a woman facing retirement like I am. You want to be very, very conscious of where you are in your leadership journey, how that intersects with your personal life. And at the end of the day, as my mama would say, it's all about money. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about student loan debt. We're going to talk about pay equity, the motherhood penalty, and mentorship versus sponsorship, which are all issues that impact particularly women of color. So let's talk a little bit about the issue of student loans. When I graduated from law school, and this was back in 2001, I graduated with over $130,000 in student loan debt. It was crippling. But I had to. My family did not have the means to pay for me to go to college. I paid for myself. They had a lot of prayer, but no money. So it was, I really had to self-finance. And so for all three of my degrees, my undergraduate degree, my master's degree, and my law degree, I really had to fund it myself, and I funded my education primarily through student loans. I did get some scholarships, yes, but ultimately I needed student loans. And what also made my journey expensive is that I had my first son prior to getting my bachelor's degree. I was in my late 20s going to college. Story for another day. I dropped out of college 3 times before I got it right. And it was my son, Nicholas, who inspired me to get myself together. And I vowed that when he went to kindergarten, that his mother would be college educated. And so it was with a little baby on my hip that I had to go to school. I was married and we had to pay for it ourselves. And so I know what it's like to graduate with a lot of debt. I thankfully was able to pay off my student debt relatively early in my career. But many of us, and particularly Black women, are having to use student debt and student loans as a vehicle to getting our education. And there's nothing wrong with that. My mother said, bet on yourself, Tisha. And that's what my student loans were to me. I was betting on me. And I think it's paid off, okay? So the challenge, though, for us is that we have to make these huge investments in student loans, which is a part of our financial reality, but we are not seeing the payback in wages. A lot of times we go into the workforce and Black women are not paid equal to their peers. We are undervalued in the workplace. And so we have to be very cognizant of that. We have to know how to advocate for ourselves. We have to make sure that we're working in environments where there is pay equity. And we have to be really sophisticated financial stewards of our own resources. The reality is the reality. And another thing my mother would always say to me is, life is unfair, and now what? Right? And so because we know this reality that we rely so heavily on student loans to get our degrees, and we also know that that debt does not always equal a higher salary. And so we have to advocate for ourselves, but we also have to take responsibility and be accountable for our finances. Black women love to look good. And I'm a Gucci, Louis, Chanel, all of that. But I did those things when I could afford to do those things. You can't carry a $5,000 purse with $5 in the bank, right? Buy whatever you want, just make sure you can afford what you buy. And so we have to make sure that we're strong financial stewards. Everybody wants to look good. There's nothing wrong with looking good, but you got to learn how to look good on a budget until you're in a position where you don't have those constraints. Because the reality is that when you get into the workforce as Black women, we've all been there, we're going to have to really work our way to the top of that ladder. It doesn't come overnight. And so you want to make sure that you're not financially strapped. And part of getting your freedom papers, which my grandmother talked so importantly about with me, if you have a degree and you have no wealth, you are not free. They go together.
You have to be educated and financially stable, educated and financially responsible. That is what gives you your freedom. And it's not just the degree. The degree is just a means to an end. And you have to know how to use that tool to get you where you're trying to go. So we all know this, the state of women in leadership, that women remain underrepresented and underpromoted. For every 10 men promoted to manager in 2024, only 81 were women. And this is all women, not just black women. And the numbers are particularly lower for black women. And so it is still, in many places, a very male-dominated workplace. The good news is that men are starting to learn you only win when you have women at the table. So they're learning the hard lesson. So we are getting more opportunities at the C-suite, but there is a disparity. In my new job as the CEO of the Maryland Bankers Association, that industry is predominantly white men. I know that I'm going to be moving in a space where I will likely be the only black woman. And it's a shame that in 2025 that we are still talking about being the first, right? So we know that this is an issue. Again, this relates not only to our professional growth, but this also relates to our pocketbooks. It takes us longer to be promoted. We have to put more work in. And so again, when you're talking about work, wages, and wealth, and I just want to be clear, when I'm talking about work, I'm not necessarily talking about you working for someone else. It can be work from the perspective of you being an entrepreneur. But we all have to work, we all get wages, and we all should be working towards wealth creation. Pay equity, this is also an issue that you hear women talk about a lot. I've faced this issue. I'm very, when I'm negotiating my salary, I'm very in tune to who made what before me, how to make the case for what my compensation should be. Another funny story about my current role, when I went into negotiations for my new job, they had restructured the organization, and they had planned, when they were recruiting for this new CEO, the position I'm going to be taking in a couple of weeks, they had written the position down and reduced the salary on the CEO position. And when they started recruiting for the new CEO, they advertised the role at less than what the previous male CEO had made. But I'm a lawyer. So I saw the advertisement, and when they reached out to me to ask me if I would consider the job, I said, only if you're going to raise the compensation. And I gave them the rationale why. I said, it's not even worth me interviewing, really, if we can't get to a better place about compensation. I know my worth. Right. I know what you paid the last person that was in this job. And if you want me to be considered a candidate, if you want me to leave my good government job to come and run your organization, then we have to talk about how we're going to close the gap. And if you can make a commitment to me that if I am selected, you all are open to closing the compensation gap, sure, I'm happy to have a conversation. But I don't want you to fall in love with me, and I don't want to fall in love with you if we can't get the money right. That's right. And so that was the first conversation I had with this organization prior to my first interview, because I know my worth. I've been in the game a long time, and I know how to communicate my accomplishments. I tell everybody there's always a return on investment in me. Whatever you've given me, I'm giving you 10 times more. Ask my sons, ask my man. Everybody knows I'm a very generous woman. So I know my worth. And I am a person who has a very strong work ethic. I'm a person who believes in organizations. And when I lead an organization, I lead to win. And so you have to pay for that. And so that was a very upfront conversation that I had with those men who were excited to underpay a black woman. I said, not today. I'll just stay right over here with Governor Westmore, and I'll see you all later. So pay equity is a real issue, but you gotta earn that. I didn't get that. I couldn't say that at 24. I'm 54. And I have the track record, I have the support system, I have the confidence, I have the receipts to be able to communicate what I am worth. And we all have to have that perspective. And you don't always get what you want, but you have to know what is the journey for you. How do you get there? How do you position yourself? That's my favorite word. You've got to be positioned to be able to be successful. And then there is the motherhood penalty. And many of us know about this. Women have 2, 3, 4 jobs. We are leading organizations. We're the CEO of our households. We are oftentimes we're the ones when the children get sick, people call us. We're the ones that have to put the babies to bed and then go on the 9 p.m. Zoom call. We're the ones that when our spouses and our partners are traveling, we have to make adjustments to our schedule to be able to meet the needs of our families, whether that is our parents, our siblings, or our children. And there is a bias in the workplace. It does exist when people are interviewing us and they're saying, well, should we hire Tisha or should we hire Bob? Well, if we hire Tisha, she has 2 boys and they're in middle school and she's going to be wanting to go to all those soccer games. So, how is she going to be able to do our 6 o'clock meetings, right? I was one of those employees. I never went to the happy hours. I don't got time to be happy houring with people I work with. I got to get off my paid job and go to my unpaid job, which was to go and feed my children. And so while all the guys were on the golf course and all the guys and everybody was going to the happy hours, as a young woman, again, remember I had a son in college, I had no time to do the socializing that sometimes is the game changer in relationship building and people getting a leg up. A lot of times it's not that the person's most qualified, they have a better relationship. Where did they get that relationship? At the Thursday afternoon happy hour when I was packing Nick's juices and pretzels and M&Ms. They were out having a good time. We often have to take off work when our kids are sick. We have to take off work when we're having babies, right? And so other people are advancing when we are taking care of our families. And so there is, no matter what people tell you, there is a penalty and there is a bias in the hiring process. And guess what? Newsflash, women even discriminate against other women. It happens all the time. So we have to be very conscientious of that. We have to talk about those things. We have to work through those things. And we have to understand that as women, we will not allow there to be a motherhood penalty in the workplace. This is another thing that I've started to get really passionate about, really helping women understand the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Okay, mentorship, which is really interesting. Everywhere I go, someone will say, hi, Miss Edwards, will you be my mentor? Hi, Miss Edwards, will you be my mentor? If I had $1 for every time someone has asked me that, I'd be a rich lady. And we all should be mentoring. But we have to understand that the mentor-mentee relationship is about guidance. The mentor-mentee relationship is about giving you counsel. The mentor-mentee relationship is about helping you to think through the things that you're navigating personally and professionally. That's what a mentor does. A sponsor helps you get paid. A sponsor is the person who's in the room advocating for your professional growth. The sponsorship is your champion sponsor. It's about your advancement. Your sponsor is when opportunities are when someone's saying, hey, who should be the keynote speaker for Coppin's Women History Day? Somebody in that room sponsored me. That was a sponsorship moment. Whoever said Secretary Tisha Edwards should be our keynote speaker, in that moment, they sponsored me. They didn't mentor me. They sponsored me. And we have to make sure that we have both of these types of relationships in our lives. We need to have mentors, and no matter where you are in your professional journey, you need to have a mentor. And believe it or not, true story for me, currently at 54, as a C-suite executive, I am more mentored by young women than I am women in my same age group. Really, for me, I get sponsorship from my peers and from women who I'm trying to get where they're going. They're the women who are putting me in the room. They're the women that are making sure that I'm seen. They're the women who, there was a woman who told the NBA that they should call me and try to recruit me for that job. That was sponsorship. My mentorship right now comes from young women, because they are teaching me about what the new workforce needs to look like. It is young women who are talking to me about the importance of work-life balance. I'm old school. My mother is a work till you die person. Okay? Young women are not having that. They want the soft life early. I didn't even know what that was. I have young women coaching me on Miss Edwards, you better get some of this soft life. We're doing this, and this. They are the global travelers. They are the experienced people, and my generation was, as I said, work until you die, work until the wheels fall off. And it is young women who are saying, yeah, we don't have a problem working, but you're not going to work me to death. Right. And so it is young women who are mentoring me, providing me guidance, providing me counsel, helping me to see the workplace in a very different way, helping me to understand what they need to be successful. So I'm getting mentorship, quite frankly, for women 45 and under. I'm getting sponsorship. Those are the women in the room. Those are the bosses. They are bringing me into the room. They are my sponsors. So we all need to have both of these things happening in our life. Both of them are needed in order for us to be successful. I can't say enough about the power of engagement and support. You cannot do this alone. Many of you here are involved in sororities, and they are wonderful opportunities for support, for networking. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. The organization came into my life when I was 15 years old, and Delta has continued to be a place where I go to for support, a place where I go to lift me up when I am down. And so finding your community, whether that is through a sorority, whether that is through the NAACP or whatever the case may be, but you have to have community to support you both professionally and personally. And this is another thing that even now I am learning. Again, I'm an old girl in the game. If I were to be talking to my younger self, what I am telling young people about now, I spent a lot of time in college. I was in all the clubs, doing all the things. Then you have children, then you have to do their things. It is very important that no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are a freshman in college or, again, a woman facing retirement, get engaged and stay engaged. Find one thing for you. You don't have to do 10 things, but find the one thing that is about you and what your interests are. If that is your faith family, there's nothing wrong with that. If that is your civic engagement family, there's nothing wrong with that. If that is your professional association, there's nothing wrong with that. We have ebbs and flows in what we can give people. In my 20s, I was running around like a crazy person. I was in everything. When the boys came, I had to bring it down a notch. I could barely do all of the things they needed plus the things I needed for myself. So I wasn't involved in things as much when my boys were in, middle school and high school. Now that my sons have graduated from college, I'm ramping back up again, right? But you always need to keep one constant. My constant has been my sorority, right? But find something that is your kind of constant long-term commitment and understand that there will be ebbs and flows. But you gotta get engaged and you gotta stay engaged. One of the other things I want to leave you with is, Secretary Edwards, you've told us all the things that we are challenged with as women and leaders. How do I make better decisions about my future? What should I be looking for when I am joining an organization, when I'm interviewing for a job, when I'm thinking about my next move? And there's an organization called Lean In, which is an organization that is all about women in leadership. And I use their resources a lot. And I just love the fact that they've laid out very clearly kind of what you should be looking for, no matter where you are in your professional journey. These are tried and true look-fors, right? A lot of times, people, when they interview with me, they focus on title and money. Title and money is important, but you can have title and money and be miserable. You can have title and money and be discriminated against. You can have title and money and you can be marginalized. So when you are thinking about your professional journey, I tell everyone when they look at my resume, it's like, well, why did you do this? And why did you do that? And why did you do this? Usually, I am going where my heart leads me. I'm working with people that I trust. I'm working on things that I care about. And when it doesn't serve me anymore, for whatever reason, good or bad, because I'm free, I go do something else, right? But I know what to look for. And so these are the kinds of things that when you are thinking about, when you're interviewing and you're talking to companies and you're trying to figure out how do you get yourself in the right place, you want to make sure that some of these green flags, not red flags, some of these green flags are in place, because that is what is going to really position you for your journey. When I got married, I was 22. My husband had already graduated from college, Norman, and he was a teacher. And he was making $35,000 a year. And I did not have a college degree, as I told you. Story for another day. I dropped out of college multiple times. And, I remember sitting down at the kitchen table with him when we were getting married. And I said, you make $35,000. And if I can make $35,000, that's $70,000. That's more than both of our parents make. We are going to be rich, right? And so at 23, 24, I am not who I was at that kitchen table aspiring to make $35,000 a year. But I was glad to make $35,000 a year. This is a journey. And so give yourself some mercy, give yourself some grace, but know what to look for. And I'm one of those people, it's like when you meet the person you like, there's just something about you. That's how I am about jobs. It's just something about you. I can feel it in my spirit when I'm moving in a place that is going to support me. So these are the kinds of things that you want to be looking for, that you want to be thinking about. And for those of us who are the supervisors, this is what we need to be cultivating. We have a responsibility. If we've made it through that door, and if we are sitting at that table where we want women to thrive and we want women to excel, this is what we owe them. we have a responsibility in this relationship. This is what they are looking for. And so in my role as a secretary of appointments, this is what I'm trying, the work environment I'm trying to create for them. And I do have a couple of my women team members here with me today, and they can tell you kind of, is this the vibe that I try to create? And it has been a real journey for me to understand that I have a responsibility to women, particularly women of color, to create a workplace where they are seen, where they are valued, where they can grow to be excellent, and where that they can thrive and grow and get work, wages, and wealth that they deserve. I am super, super lucky to have an extraordinary group of women that I confide in. They give me counsel for probably every major decision that I make, that allow me to be super vulnerable, and that coach me through my fears. So I just say that it takes community. Women's History Month is about us celebrating each other and committing to each other's success. We face some real challenges, personally and professionally, but there is a path forward. But it requires us all doing our part. And I love this quote. I didn't say this, Madeleine Albright did, but I do live by this. There's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. All right, thank you so much. I don't know if there's time for any questions or anything. No? Okay, good. I do have time if there are any.
Any questions? Any thoughts? I mean, I had thoughts. So I really appreciate the positioning of mentorship and sponsorship. Because as I'm at this place in my career, and because we work in such close proximity to young women, indeed, and I really hope that the young women in here hear this. You all mentor us daily. We learn so much from you all. And so I hope that reality puts you in a position of empowerment. So thank you for giving us that perspective.
Absolutely. A year ago, I think it was 2024. At the beginning of every year, I have a group of girlfriends, the women that I talked about here. There are 4 of us that we've been together 25 years. In that group of 4, 3 are deltas. 1 we're still working on. But I remember in 2024, we did our vision boards. Every January, we get together and we go to one of our houses. We, go from house to house. And we have a vision boarding session. And last year, I was talking about, I know I want to do something differently. I don't know what it is. And when you do your vision boarding with us, you get to have one ask. What is your ask of me, of us, in 2024? And for my, we call ourselves a Flossy Posse. For my girlfriends, I said to them, ladies, I need more sponsorship. And I said, because everybody thinks, Tisha, you have it all together, you work for the governor, blah, 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 blah. And what I said to them is, there is no bigger fan of Governor Westmore than me. I've known him for over 15 years. This is my 3rd time working for him, so I'm very committed to him. The challenge that I had, quite honestly, and I don't say this out loud a lot, but I'll say it to this group. I told him, I said, I feel like I'm a backup dancer in one of your videos. People come up to me and they don't even say hello to me. They go, how is Governor Westmore? What is it like to work for Governor Westmore? Can you get Governor Westmore to be in my bar mitzvah? It's just, and I love being his spokesperson, but I am my own leader. And I said to my girlfriends last year, I said, I no longer want to be a backup singer in his video. I want to have my own group, and I want to get back where I'm the lead. where I am living my dream as his secretary of appointments. Again, honor of my life, and I am grateful to God that this little girl from Mississippi had that opportunity. But that's his dream. It is not mine. And it took a year of me talking to my girlfriends, talking to the governor, who is very supportive of me. When I went to him, I said, I'm not going to be doo-wopping for you anymore. I have an opportunity to step into my own leadership role and to kind of create some space between us where I can reclaim my own identity as a woman in leadership. And it was through those relationships of sponsorship, because what those women did for me is they started helping me think about how to reclaim my professional identity, how to be okay with putting something aside to do something else, how I needed to show up differently if I wanted to, go back to my own brand, my own platform, my own dreams, how I needed to kind of pivot. And I've been working on that for the past year with the governor's support. And so it is so important that you have people around you that you can bring voice to what's in here. A lot of times we have the thoughts, but we're afraid to say them. And so you have to have a community of people, and for me it's generally women, that I say that it's safe for me to say, I like him, but I don't want to be his backup singer. Can I do? And they say, you know what, we was wondering when you were going to decide. You have to have that, and that's why having both that mentorship and those sponsorship relationships are so important. And you need that no matter where you are in your professional journey. So it is super, super important.